My favorite game from round 3 of Lindores Abbey Rapid Challenge 2020 was the game between Hikaru Nakamura and Alireza Firouzja. Well, this game was really short, so I'd be covering another game from round 4, which was my favorite game, and we'll see then what it was. First, take a look at this game between Nakamura and Firouzja. Hikaru with white pieces, Firouzja with black. Hikaru opens, d4, knight f6, knight f3, d5, e3, e6. So some called symmetrical variation of Cole system. And now b3. So he's following this Cole system where normally you might see a6. However, b3 is played, but you don't see a6 in this system. Bishop e7, so Firouzja developing. Bishop b2, fianchettoing the bishop on the queen side. Castles, bishop d3, b6, fianchettoing his queen's bishop. Firouzja does the same. Knight b d2. And Nakamura has played this against Sergei Karjakin, but the game ended in a draw. The game was played in 2017. So Nakamura has played this opening before, and it's not like he's facing a low rated bloke who is on the scene. So he would try to test the young buddy. c5, a3, knight c6, captures on c5, and now c4 is fixing the structure, not letting black play c4. So far so good. a5, c takes d5, pawn takes d5, queen c2, putting a battery on h7, which can be dangerous potentially, although not at this moment. a4, rook a d1, a takes b, knight takes b3, and here Firouzja somewhat diverted from the path. Maybe he could have played c4 in this position, and it looks like c4 could be dangerous. Let's say c4, bishop takes c4, you lose a pawn. Of course this can't be taken because of the pin, but the still position has reasonable chances here. You get the pawn back after bishop takes a3, and things are level. It's very uncertain whether black would be better in that case, but still the position would have been playable. But after knight takes b3, Firouzja plays queen b6 in this position. It's coming out of the pin, instating a threat of f6, but now this opens the line of the bishop and he strikes down that defender of h7. Well, that was the trick that he missed. And after g takes f6, this opens the king. Now a possible variation which could have been played here is to play rook b1, and that would have been a better case, but then plays bishop c8, and now bishop takes h7 check, king g7, bishop f5, knight e5, knight h4, and each and every piece now is going towards the king side of black. However, after g takes f6, Nakamura crashes in with bishop takes h7 check. And this wasn't a decisive moment of the game. It was an advantageous moment, not the decisive one. But what I think that Alireza Firouzja was taken aback by this bishop takes h7, and seemed like he was somewhat distracted or disturbed by bishop takes h7 check and the king's position. Look at the squares that king is exposed to, and he didn't seem to deal with it quite well, because after king h8 this position is totally hopeless. He could have played king g7, because after knight h4 suddenly everything is coming at black. He can try knight e5, but this is to no avail. Knight f5 is totally crushing. The bishop is attacked, and everything is falling here for black. Rook takes a3, that was the final mistake of the game. And after queen e2 and rook a4, don't know what he was doing. Queen h5, Firouzja resigned the game. There's absolutely no defense to bishop g6 and queen h7 mate. You can try rook h4, but knight takes is simply too much, or even queen takes is simply way too much for Firouzja. I think from this game Nakamura did surprise Firouzja, and he was taken, as I said, he was taken aback by the opening choice of Hikaru. And if you were playing faster time controls with Hikaru and with such openings, you should better be careful. And even with, and if you are black, then best of luck. You may or may not stand a chance, especially in the faster time controls. So I look at my another favorite game, and that is from round 4, and this is the game between Sergei Karjakin and Jan Krzysztof Duda, or I should say Jan Krzysztof Duda. Pardon my pronunciation. So I look at this game. I give it away. This is a poisoned pawn knight off variation that we will see. This is fashionable. This was variation. This is knight off, g5, here f4, queen b6, and this variation was played by great Bobby Fischer, and he preferred this variation with white pieces. He had a very good expertise. He won a lot of games with this variation. He won a lot of games with any variation, doesn't matter whether it's poison pawn or knight off or Lipnitsky variation, where you play bishop c4 after a6. He was expert in everything. So rook b1 challenges the queen, queen a3, and why does white give this pawn up? He gives this pawn to have some activity on the b file and the poor positioning of the queen, and you can see that queen cannot go to safe squares. The only two safe squares apart from a3 are basically a5 and c5, and once those are covered, then this queen is running very short of squares. On the other hand, white has tremendous compensation in the form of this active rook, these two knights. Sooner this bishop will develop, whereas this knight is standing here. This bishop is somewhat locked by the pawns. We will see that in the game. And on the meanwhile, black is still slow in castling. So compensation for that matter. f5. If this is taken, then pawn takes, and things still stay better for white. Nothing changes. Knight c6, f takes e6, f takes e6, knight takes e6, b takes e6, and now developing the bishop on e2. Bishop comes to e7, e5, so giving up another pawn, but for that ruining the black's pawn structure, that was quite essential. We look at 4 pawn islands against 3 pawn islands, where you can see this pawn is loose. This pawn is although defended, but a potential target. This is definitely loose. This is definitely loose pawn. This is defended by this bishop, and look at the job these pawns are doing. They're cramping this bishop. So if you say that white doesn't have a compensation, you might be kidding. Bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6. Of course, if you would have taken with the pawn, then again this bishop would have been cramped here, and bishop h5 check would have been unpleasant for black in that case. Bishop h5 check and g6. So this move wouldn't have been possible if pawn takes, knight e4 attacks the bishop, castles, both side castles. So now both knight and rook are attacking the bishop. If you take, I take with the knight, and that would be better. And not to forget, queen h6 is also on the cards. Bishop tucks back to g7, serving two roles is to removing itself from the attacking square and also stopping queen h6. Rooks exchanged. Now queen jumps back to the defense. Bishop tucks back to f3. Rook a7. Rook goes to b8. Rook d7. The threat was knight d6, exploiting the pin and winning the bishop. So rook d6 defends that. Now queen a5. Now why is this played? Is to check, keep a check on this rook. If this rook moves, then queen c7 jumps in, or even supporting this knight c5 move, taking this pawn, or taking this pawn for that matter. It is a multi-purpose move. And here simple move would have been to play h6 here, with the ideas of queen b6 and using the queen to take this pawn. But queen d8, he was hoping that something good will come out of this. You are two pawns up, so may as well trade the queens and liquidate into an endgame with two pawns up, and black would be winning. But he missed something. He missed something very big here. And from this moment, Christoph Duda was running very short of time. He was under 6 minutes, and Karjakin was a little bit over 10 minutes in this position. So he had a time advantage as well, Karjakin. So after queen exchange, rook takes d8, bishop g4 is a very nasty move. And there doesn't seem to be a good way to defend it, because you cannot take with the bishop because it is pinned and your rook will drop. And already there is a threat of playing knight d6 if this rook moves away from this file. King f7 defends the pawn, however, this loses a piece tactically. Rook takes c8 check. Rook takes c8, not check. Rook takes c8, knight d6 check. The double attack on the king and the rook. King f6, knight takes c8. White has black has two pawns for the piece, and I think this position should be equal, but a knight or a bishop against one lone bishop, a piece is a piece unless and until there are pawns on the board. Bishop f8 activating the bishop. Bishop f3, white does the same, and also attacking the pawn. If you play c5, then knight b6, bishop d6, bishop e4. Black is in Tsutswang. Let's see, not here. You will see white bringing his king away to swipe off this pawn, and this pawn will run through. We'll see that also. However, after bishop f3, he gives this pawn, creates some counterplay on the king side, taking advantage of these two extra pawns, but they are weak and one behind another. So that's also unpleasant for black in this position. Tries e4 to lock this bishop. King f2 activating the king, bishop c5 check, king e2, king f4. So basically he's trying to push these pawns as down as possible to create pressure on these two pawns on the king side and try to use the king to take these pawns, but it is far away from, and the story is so far away. a4, a5 blocking the pawn, king d2, and I think this was another mistake from Duda. He could have played bishop here or bishop somewhere back, or possibly h5 and g5, but he plays bishop b4 check, which loses time because white can play c3 and bishop has to go back to where it came from, and this loses time, and the pawn has advanced one square, doesn't have the matters as well. If you are a piece down, if you have two pawns and these two pawns don't stand very well, they can easily be blockaded on the light square. King e2, as I said, king f5, g3 from Sergey, king e5, king d2, and black can place g5 in this position, but Duda goes for bishop g1, attacking the pawn, h3, bishop f2, and bishop b7. If bishop takes g3, then knight a7, see knight c6, and this pawn drops. There is absolutely no defense, and this pawn will run home. Or probably black has to give this bishop away for this pawn. So after bishop b7, bishop c5 was played, king c2. So little by little, Karjakin is improving his king's position. He's a piece up, reminder, but he has two pawns for the piece. Black has two pawns for the piece, I should say. Bishop f2 attacking the pawn, g4, h4, knight e7, king f4, knight c6 hunting the a pawn, king g3 hunting the h pawn, knight takes a5, he takes the pawn, king takes h3, he takes the pawn. Both parties have passed pawns, but the problem is this bishop can take on e4 and controls the sh1 square, and black does also does the same. He controls the a7 square, but the problem is that white also has the c3 pawn here, and might see white using this knight on c6 and pushing this down, and whenever the pawn comes on a7, bishop takes, you take with the knight, and you will be two pieces up in this position and only dealing with possibly this passed pawn or maybe this passed pawn, but this c3 pawn will win you the game. And here in this position, Sergey plays knight b3. Let's have a look at the move. Bishop takes e4, which would have been very pragmatic. I don't know why didn't Karjakin take the pawn on e4. King takes g4, knight b3, bishop a7, knight d4. Position is still unclear, but this c3 pawn, as I said, will win the game. If you play this, then knight c6 picks the pawn. Remember that. So after king takes h3, Karjakin plays knight b3. King takes pawn, and again Karjakin doesn't opt for this move. He plays a5. Still, now the position is very tricky. If bishop takes e4 had happened, might have seen something else. Bishop a7, so now keeping a track of this pawn, and now simple winning move would have been bishop takes e4. Just absolutely nothing that black would be able to do, because knight here, or maybe say knight here and here will pick this bishop off, or knight here for that matter. c6 would be very nice because that would attack the pawn and would come with check if this pawn moves on e5. However, in this position, Sergey Karjakin makes a terrible mistake. Knight d4. And what happens after knight d4? This is a draw. e5 comes. Knight e6. e3. King d3. King f5. Knight f8. g4. Black's pawns are looking really heavy here. Bishop e4 check. King g5. Knight e6 check. King f6. Knight f8. And there is no way that white would be able to control these pawns. This is a dead drop. This bishop does a tremendous job of blocking this pawn. This pawn cannot roll through. And whereas these two pawns will take this bishop with them, that game would have been drawn. However, Duda, after knight d4, makes a terrible error, h3, and this loses straight away to bishop takes e4. Karjakin missed it once, he missed it twice, he wasn't going to miss it thrice, and he's pounced on that e4 pawn. Now it's all gone. e5 was the final nail in the coffin. The game might have continued after king f4, knight e2, king h4, king d5, g4, c4, g3, knight gives itself away, king takes g3, and after c5, Duda resigned the game. H pawn is controlled by the bishop. If black's bishop tries to control the c pawn, he won't be able to controlling a pawn. The e pawn is under control by the white king, and this king has to recapture the bishop if it takes on h1. So every piece is overloaded here, and it's all gone. What a fantastic victory this was from Karjakin. Well, there were 4 joint first places. I don't remember the name, but Nakamura and Carlsen were certainly leading the charts, and possibly Karjakin and Dingleren also would have been leading the charts. And that was a good first day. We see quite crunch games, quite testing games, quite short encounters, a little bit of inexperience, and some great initiative on the king side. I hope you like the video. I hope you like what I do. Do support me on Patreon and PayPal. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel, because your support is my motivation, which keeps me going for past 22 minutes. Stay safe. Thanks for watching. Cheers. Bye.